starts with you, only you. A cosmic dance, the truth so true. From the ether to the earthly plane, all you seek, you can attain. The quantum flow, the light you hold, creates the story that will unfold. Every thought and step you make, the universe is yours to take. It starts with you, the mirror's hue, infinite skies reflecting you. From the void, you birth the light. Through the shadows, your soul takes flight. The winds will shift, its timeless bend. Every cycle begins again. Your energy builds, it flows, it streams, aligning rims, igniting your dream. Each vibration, each sacred sound, a universe moves resound. You are the spark, divine and true, illuminating. It's all you do. Just remember, it starts with you, the mirror's hue, infinite skies reflecting you. From the void, you birth the light.
You're in the Space Family. Happy Sunday.
Your soul ignites. The path within, the path divine, through space.
We're coming home a little space tonight.
Every rise, every fall, you're connected to it all. It starts with you, the quantum view, manifesting dreams like the morning dew.
Come in as you get in the building. Say hello.
Creation flows through the darkness.
Say hello.
Spirit mode. It starts with you, only you. Through dimension, through the veil, the sacred truth, and you prevail. Now infinite, clear, and true. This road ahead, it's made for you. It all begins and ends with you.
Come in here and say hello as y'all get in the space. Happy Sunday.
Anew, never the same. Every heartbeat, every sign weaves your essence, soaring high. The cosmos bends to your command. Creation blooms within your hand. It starts with you, only you, only you. It starts with you.
Welcome into the Space Family. I decided to come on and bless you guys with my presence tonight. Say hello as you get in the building. Topic tonight, no bad parts. We're going to get this thing going so we can get out of here. Y'all say hello as y'all come in the space. I'm trying to get everything going so we can get going. Welcome. Welcome. We're going to get these disclosures on the way. I share my own personal experiences on my journey to healing. I am not a licensed professional, nor do I claim to know everything. I do this for entertainment purposes only. However, occasionally, I share something that may not be personal, but I decided to make my business anyway. Tonight isn't that night. However, I'm sharing it anyway. So if it don't apply, let it fly. If some apply and some don't, eat the meat and spit out the bones. If it all applies, eat it all and apply the knowledge. Topic tonight, no bad parts. We're going to get these disclosures We're done with the disclosures, but we're going to get these intentions set so that we can get into this topic. Let's slow this down just a little bit. Welcome into the space. So we're going to take a deep breath as we go on this journey of unfolding tonight. We inhale new possibilities of awareness and restoration, and we exhale trauma. We open our hearts and our minds to recognize that negative emotions are a part of the human experience. And instead of always being self-critical, we accept those moments because they're meant for us to grow. Let us shift our perspectives by viewing these parts as an opportunity to learn. We reflect on those things that they teach us about the triggers and the things that we need. We ask ourselves what thoughts and actions are causing us to feel self-critical about ourselves. And whatever shows up in that space, treat yourself with kindness and compassion rather than punish yourself for whatever shows up. I accept that I have flaws. You should accept that you have flaws. And I choose to be patient with myself. And I remain present to focus on the here and now instead of dwelling on my past or worrying about my future. I set the intention to show up in gratitude in my present, and I will actively appreciate the positive aspects of my life and the lessons that come along with it. I speak life over myself. I speak healing over myself. And I'm worthy of the moments of happiness. I'm good enough. Say that to yourself. I'm good enough. I celebrate in advance. And I shift my attention away from the perceived failures that may show up along this journey. And I shift that energy towards joy, peace, and enlightenment. And every step that I take, no matter how small, it's a step in the right direction. But in this, I understand that it all starts with me. And yours all starts with you. And I say, and so it is. Welcome into the space, family. Happy Sunday. We're going to come in here and hold a little space with this topic tonight. So welcome in where it starts with you, where there's no shame, blame, or judgment, how we do hold ourselves and one another accountable. This is a beautiful saying for tonight. No bad parts. I'm going to be saying that very often, so get used to it. Because I'm going to take a look at that tonight. Really take a look at who we really are. I want you to take a look at who you are. And we're going to unpack this thing and lay it out. I think I like that idea. I do. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe a little bit over a week, maybe about a week and a half, I unpacked the topic of the silent promise. And in that, we unpacked what it looks like when silent promises are made, which are those arrangements or agreements that shape your relationships through trust and mutual understanding without even saying a word. They hold weight. They hold weight. And they show up for people without asking. These are promises. They influence how we interact and make choices. But when they're broken, similar to parental abandonment, it leaves residuals. And those residuals shape how you attach. And how, if the proper foundation is not placed, you can end up attaching anxiously or avoidant. And this, instead of you attaching securely. And it was a beautiful one for me. Let me say this. And if you take some time to unpack it, it should be a beautiful one for you too. As I unpacked, I mentioned how I was dealing with feelings of shame and probably a little bit of embarrassment too about the things that happened in my life, things that brought me that shame and embarrassment, all the things. And as I look back over my life, I found myself on my timeline again, unpacking those topics that I talked about just this year. The topics where it's a new year, lust and desire, fear my love, threads of karma, addicted to me, disappointment, the promise, the silent promise. That's 8 topics. And out of those 8, every single one of them, everyone started with me with no exception. And if you're honest with yourself, you can recognize they started with you too. But I started thinking about, where did all this thinking come from that I've been unpacking? Where did all this come from? And after a lot of self-reflection, I got an answer. I got an answer. I'm going to tell you a secret. It's probably not a secret. Probably not a secret. Because it's no different than what I've been telling us this whole time. I keep saying it. But come close, I'm going to tell you anyway. It's in the experience. It's in the experience. I know that wasn't a secret. But that's what it is. It's in the experience. Those thoughts and patterns, that stinking thinking, as they say, come from trauma. They come from your life experiences. And it's not just me saying it. And tonight we're going to unpack that. Because I did a little research. You know, I love stimulating my mind now that I don't have those ideas of stinking thinking when it relates to me learning, when it relates to me growing in my intellectual ability. I don't have that thinking any longer. But there was a study done by Beck, and they showed how children, based on their experiences and trauma, internalize those negative thought patterns as a result, as a reaction to those tough experiences that they deal with, or those critical environments. Nothing different than I've already unpacked. But we're going to go deeper tonight because we're going to add to that. What can that look like, Ty? How can I identify if I'm one of those children? I would start to feel guilty about talking to myself. Now that I'm unpacking this, I'm grateful that I don't have that guilt. But what it looks like is growing up in a home where there's frequent conflict. If you're one of those children, I'm talking to you. Growing up in a home where there is no emotional support. It looks like the experience of neglect or abuse, whether it be mental, sexual, or physical. That's what it looks like. Living in poverty or in a poverty mindset. I like that. I didn't think about that. In a poverty mindset or in a financial strain, it can look like that too. Witnessing or being exposed to violence or trauma, being bullied, experiencing discrimination or social exclusion. But they got the audacity to ask us, why y'all can't just get over it? That's why. You expect me to get over it when I don't even recognize there is a problem. Keep going, Ty. Thank you. I will. Because I'm just getting to the good ones. Experiencing judgment or being excluded when you go to church. Give me your children, they say. When you're faced with pressure to conform to those strict religious expectations, knowing that it's going to be difficult, enduring spiritual abuse, when you're manipulated by the church leaders. Listen, I just seen a video with Marvin Sapp in it, telling the ushers to close the doors so people couldn't leave while they were doing a collection. It was supposed to be a fundraising event. Not only that, the man turned to the people on the stage and told them, you got to pay to be on the stage. That's the type of abuse I'm talking about. I've been telling us for a long time, and I've been saying this. I did a teaching on it. Dr. Simitawi did a teaching on, will a man rob God? Go back down the timeline. Even if you thought it was right, even if he thought this was a right thing to do, why did you come back and apologize for it? This is why it's so important when you say things, you mean what you say so you can stand on business. And your excuse is, it was for security because the church was vulnerable. Then they say, the reason was for me being a good steward. Let's back up to the other part of the church being vulnerable. Why you didn't do it during the offering? I got questions. I'm not afraid to ask my questions, whether it be to you or whether it be to myself. I'm not afraid to do that. And for those of you in the back, being a good student derived from the word of guardian, being a guardian, keeper of the hall. Why you wasn't being a guardian, the keeper of the hall when they were collecting the offering? The math don't math. You know what? I'm starting to be convinced, and I had a little bit of hope in that area. I'm starting to be convinced that y'all really do know. But they do it because y'all let them. They do this because you let them. You know, in the back of your mind, not even the back of your mind, your parts, your bad parts are telling you something ain't right about this, but you suppress it. You press it down. I ain't gonna say nothing because I don't want to block my blessings. But you have yet to think about these children that are witnessing this hypocrisy, this unethical behavior that's happening in the church. And if you don't see nothing wrong with that, I'm convinced you're a part of the problem and not the solution. And if you don't see nothing wrong with it, tell me who you kin to in the Levite tribe. Tell me. I'll wait. Y'all was doing right. Y'all wasn't doing right by this tithing situation. That's why it was taken from you. That's why it was taken from you, because you wasn't doing right by it in the first place. These people are supposed to give with a cheerful heart. And if you lock in the doors, ain't nothing about that cheerful. But listen, that's not what it's about. It is kind of, because I'm still on that no bad parts, because y'all know, whoever was in the room know that something in you was saying, this is why we have, as Africans in America, we have that thinking, I wish a nigga would. But we don't say nothing about it. We just let them do whatever they want to do. But I'm going to get off it. But you can't unhear what you done heard. The math don't math about that. Will a man rob God? Back to the topic. No bad parts. I'm going to take my time tonight like I usually do. because I decided tonight to come in and be vulnerable and share some transparent, very transparent moments with you guys, in hopes that it'll help you on your journey, because we're all dealing with this. No exceptions. I don't give anybody, when I say anybody, I give nobody a pass on this one. Hear it or not, I'm going to sweep off. I'm going to dust off my feet and I'm going to keep going. Bowlby's work on attachment theory in 1982, I think it was 1982, was an opportunity to highlight how insecure attachment styles in childhood leads to self-doubt and overthinking. It shows how those early experiences shape the way we process thoughts and emotions as adults. And we have to understand these stages because it's so important when it comes to these negative thinking patterns. This causes things to show up in what you manifest in your creation process. When these things would show up for me, it showed up like me asking myself these questions. What's happening? Am I good enough? What did I do to deserve this? Could I have prevented this from happening? Don't play like I'm by myself. We're not doing that. All alone in childhood, being told, blame it on the devil, because that's the devil trying to steal your joy. I've been talking for a minute. And I have to tell you what bad parts are, because I haven't gotten to that yet. So I want to unpack that. So what are bad parts? I'm going to get to my favorite part, the definitions. I have to give you this first, so as we move throughout the night, no one will be confused. Bad parts means the negative or the undesirable aspects or behaviors we demonstrate. So those flaws that I talked about and those intentions that we see as weaknesses, or anything that takes away the value or effectiveness of something. And when I say that, the value and the effectiveness of you. The phrase itself comes from the word bad, which meant wicked or deficient in quality. Back in Old English, they called it bordel. Now, over time, bad became a catch-all for anything unfavorable. Miss Ty, what are these unfavorable things you speak of? I got you. The unfavorable things are things like placing material possessions above your spiritual growth, harboring resentment and hatred or unforgiveness towards other people or other things, engaging in behaviors of lifestyle that go against biblical teachings, or things that are dishonest or immoral, or things that are not righteous. Neglecting prayer, worship, and personal relationships with God. Did I not say ye? So I'm talking about you. Neglecting. Idolatry in any form, to include prioritizing fame, power, or other idols over God. Ignoring those acts of kindness and compassion and support for those in need. Because y'all know the reason they were collecting the tithes anyway. Go back down that timeline so you can get the real on what they was even doing it for. Doubting or losing faith in God, doubting yourself or losing faith in yourself, doing the trials instead of seeking guidance, allowing pride, arrogance, or selfishness to dominate your actions and relationships and pairing. And with parts, it helps focus on a specific negative feature within something bigger, i.e., self. So if you have awareness, you can take accountability and say it's nothing on nothing on the outside of me, because it all starts with me. Look at me, family. It starts with you because it's something that shows up within. You will know what's on the inside of you based on what's showing up in your life. After you go through those experiences, I can't help but be curious about the ugly part of me. I'm curious about the ugly part of me that I chained and I shackled. I don't know about y'all, but I'm curious. And because I recognize that we can't know the unseen things we can know the unseen things from the things that are seen. And with me, what I'm seeing these things that I am manifesting on the outside of me that are not quite lining up with what I desire. So as a result, I want to know myself on a deeper level. And that includes all of my parts. You should have a desire to learn your parts too. I have to become the greatest version of myself. That's not an option for me. When you got purpose, it's not an option for you not to become the greatest version of yourself. It's a requirement. And in order to do that, I have to recognize what these parts are, because I can't heal. Family, you're not going to heal unless you know what that is. And instead of trying to suppress it or fight it or push it down or cast it out, to put it in some swine, before I get deep, let's tap into our circumference of awareness. Because this is never intended to hurt anyone, but it's intended to bring truth and awareness to what really happens. So tonight we're going to tap into the part that you don't know. And we're doing some self-reflection on those parts that you don't know about yourself. What parts are you referring to, Ty? I got you. We are raised, and we're raising our children. Our moms and our ancestors were raised in this mono mind system. Mono mind means we all have a single unified personality or identity. And rather than being made of different internal parts, it's just one. When you're younger, we have little discernment regarding the validity of the emotions and beliefs that happen. And as a result of abandonment, the sense of worthiness or the lack of, that comes into a child when the parent abuses them. Worthlessness, that's the word I was searching for. The terror that can show up when a child is terrified. The belief that no one can be trusted because of the silent and spoken promises. They get stored in the body of the young parts of you. The body keeps the score. And unconsciously, it becomes powerful. They are called personal burdens. And internal working models by Bowlby, one of the pioneers of the attachment theory, calls it the internal working models. And in his theory, he says, they're like maps. And these maps that are developed as children, they map out what they expect from the world. It tells you about your own goodness and how much you deserve love and support. Not to mention the legacy burdens that we may not notice. And these are the burdens that you inherit from your parents. Remember how I think it was Dr. Simitawi told y'all, hey, listen, when your mama was pregnant in your grandmother's womb, you were at that point you were already being prepared and shaped with these inherited. But those are what legacy burdens are. So you already have those burdens that you come in the world with. That's why they say you're born of sin. Because your DNA passed from your ancestors to you, or even from your culture. And as I was unpacking this, a movie came to mind. Y'all remember the movie Multiplicity? I was thinking about that movie. So I paid for it and I watched it again. And for those of you that aren't aware of the movie, I'm going to give you a little, I'm going to catch you up. I'm going to give you a synopsis of what it was. It was a story about this guy named Doug. He had got overwhelmed in his life and he just couldn't do all the things that needed to be done. His wife wanted to go back to work, but he couldn't be there for him because he was working a job and he had these other things that he had the desire to do. So he decided to clone himself to manage those different parts of his life, like work and family and personal time. And each of those clones took on this specific side of his personality. One of his personalities was the hard-working one that would handle his work situation. But he was way too serious. He was a ladies' man. While another one was chill, intellectual, and he had these feminine, nurturing abilities. He knew how to cook. And after it was 3 of them, got overwhelmed, they decided, one of the clones decided, we need one more. So we're going to make a clone of ourselves. And this one came out childlike. It was a childlike Doug. And it was chaotic. They had all kinds of stuff going on. They caused him to lose his job. He wound up losing his wife. His wife was all confused because she was encountering all these different personalities in different physical forms. They all looked like him, so she thought they were him. So she got upset and couldn't take it anymore, and she left with the kids. And finally, it dawned on him. This is not working. And it took that for him to realize that they had to work together to bring unity back to his life. This movie showed me a couple of things. One, they playing in y'all face. don't know if that was the 80s or the 90s. They've been playing in y'all face because they already know, but they never tell you. And I understand why. I definitely do. I understand why they wouldn't tell you. But this movie was a beautiful reflection of how we have all these different parts of ourselves. And even the ones we don't always want to admit are there, are still there. That movie has so many great points about those fragmented parts of us that we condemn. And it made a point that they aren't actually bad. It's your perspective. It's how you were raised to believe that these parts of you are bad. And I don't think he realized that until they wound up sleeping with his wife, each of the parts. And he said, Doug, wait a minute, I'm you. And then the light bulb went on. They're just trying to help in their own way. Even though it causes chaos sometimes. Sure, the clone seems like a mess at first, but the bigger idea is with some understanding and some acceptance and compassion. What feels like disruption can actually come together. The message is clear. Don't fight and suppress those parts of yourself. Instead, recognize their purpose and find a way to bring everything into balance. That's my art. Listen, they're not originals of anything except for the gun. They steal it and give it back to you in puzzle pieces. Monomon is saying it goes one way, but it only starts with you. We understand duality over here on It Starts With You. So there's another side. There's another side to that monomind thinking that they don't want us to know about. And it's called sub-minds. Go look it up. Don't take my word for it because we're going to unpack it tonight. It embraces different viewpoints and ideas. It sparks creativity. It fuels innovation, and it helps us find better solutions by looking at things from different angles. This is the epitome of when I say use your African mind to think. This is the epitome of what I'm speaking of. This is science. Go and look at that movie, Multiplicity. Multiplicity. I can't think of what the guy's name is, the actor, but look it up. But go deep. Because from the moment that we're born, I got to give you the history of this thing. From the moment that we're born, our brains come loaded with different systems and circuits for things like language and emotions and decision making. For example, the brain's language systems include the Broca's and Renix region. It enables communication and word processing. Emotions are managed by the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, while the decision making relies on the frontal lobe and the reward pathways. These systems work together by design. But this monomind theory that they gave you was designed to make you fear those parts of yourself. Say it again for the people in the back, Ty. This theory was designed purposely for us to fear those parts, so much so that we end up fighting it, ignoring it, hiding it, judging it. These parts are of ourselves. And then we shame ourselves for not being able to control those very parts that we done pushed down, that we didn't even get a chance to try to even know why and what their purpose is. And when it doesn't work out, we end up adapting our lives to that same fear. And that don't make sense if y'all saying, and you keep saying, we were not given the spirit of fear, but that's what that's what that system teaches you. That rather than exploring and being curious about those parts so that you can be healed, we think we should be able to discipline our sinful minds through willpower. I got news for you, family. That ain't it. That's not how it works. Those parts fight back. You don't believe me? We're gonna unpack that. This is why you can't kick those bad habits you got. Those parts are not what they seem. They have been forced out of their natural valuable states into destructive ones. And instead of the duality of those roles, what are duality of the roles? Instead of crucifying you, because you're hanging yourself on the cross, that's what you're doing. They could take on the inner critic. Instead of you doing that, they can take on your inner critic and be your cheerleader, your number one cheerleader, instead of criticizing you for all the time. The caretakers want to set boundaries. The rageful part of you wants to help you discern who is safe and who is not. Those parts are beneficial. They are attributes that can help you along your journey. But if you have them chained and shackled up on the inside of you, they can't do what is needed. If you take time to get to know yourself, even those bad parts, you can reveal how they were forced into the space and got stuck there because they're terrified. As if they didn't act or do something. Something bad would happen. And they get frozen in the past. Whenever that traumatic time was, when that personality was created, they get stuck there. Where they had to take that role on. But if you don't listen, if we don't listen, those parts will never be able to attach to you securely. So you'll always have this internal chaos. So you have to show up in love. You have to show up in love for those inner parts. Just like we try to love things on the external part of us, we have to love the things within us. And we can't do that if we constantly condemning those parts of us. Embracing and loving those parts allow you to heal and transform. In Buddhism, they call this work, and I hope I don't butcher it, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. It's called Bodhisattva. That means the one who is on the way to enlightenment. I love it when things connect. I wasn't a Buddhist. I'm not a Buddhist, but I was a Christian. So through a Christian lens, it's doing your inner work on the inner world, your inner world, what Jesus did on the outer world. You go to these parts of you with love. You heal them and you bring them home. just like he did with the lepers, just like he did with the poor people, just like he did with the outcasts. Those parts of you that you try to get rid of, they are not sinful impulses. Instead, they are spiritual and they're sacred beings, and they need healing. This is why you keep backsliding and committing the same sin over and over again. You go up there and you say, it used to be confessionals back in the day. You used to have to go into a booth and confess. But after Martin Luther came into the scene, he divided that. He wanted to make sure that people had to go to God themselves versus going through a channel to get to him. But this is why you're constantly in the prayer line repenting for the same sin Sunday after Sunday. And then in your mind, something saying, we all fall short. We all sin and fall short. You're going to blame it on the devil. You're doing the same thing, expecting different results. That's insanity. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been a Christian for 40 years, and I keep backsliding, doing the same thing over and over again. That's that mono-mind paradigm. It's going to lead you to low vibrational things. That's why you keep looping. Because we believe we have one mind, and there's no room for healing in that. So I don't care how many times you take it to the altar. I don't care how many times you take it to your prayer closet. If you don't heal this, not only that, you don't have the compassion needed for the people to heal. You lack compassion. And that's why the church is on its way out. I believe that with everything in me. Y'all lack compassion. Y'all out here laying hands on people and not healing nothing. You don't know what's wrong with them. They don't know what's wrong with them. And in most cases, they are fearful to find out. But y'all time in the wilderness is almost over. That ain't gonna fly with this new generation. They not going along with this foolishness. A warning comes before destruction. My generation is probably the last ones that's going to give y'all hope. My generation is probably going to be the last ones that's going to give y'all hope. Time is winding up. But there's hope, because if you recognize you got these sub-minds. They are semi-autonomous. They have this process in the brain that works together to shape these thoughts and emotions and behavior. They focus on specific tasks like problem solving or memory retrieval. They focus on the interconnected part of the brain's neural network. They help us adapt and make decisions and process those experiences. That's what they don't want you to tap into with these African minds. Even though we're not aware of these sub-minds, I told us they have been studying us for a long time. And through that research that they gathered in developmental psychology and neuroscience, it revealed to them that these sub-minds play a big role in shaping our thoughts and behaviors and how we interact with other people. So if they can't just switch it, Miss Ty, I don't know about that. Let me simplify it. When you think of subminds, all it is thinking. That's it. Thinking. They were so cold-blooded and surgical. They were intentional. That they decided to take away your ability to think. And here we are thinking we're free people. Something so natural for us. And they go and demonize it. Not even that. The man that wrote the book on demonology, they gave him to y'all and let him give you this information, and we take it for fact. They would have you think, when you hear these parts of you talking to each other, that it's something outside of you. So as children, they gave this to you. They gave you the angel and the devil, but only told you to pay attention to the angel because the devil was bad. One part of you tell you to do it, but you hear something else saying don't. So because they demonize the part of you that say do it, you wouldn't think that this is you, or think that these are my inner thoughts, that this is me. We got to pay attention. We have to pay attention. I know what you're thinking. This lady done went crazy. Call me what you want, but you would never call me a zombie. Never in life. I hear you saying it. This lady saying we have multiple personalities. We're talking to ourselves. I'm not that crazy one. What y'all try to paint me out to be, I'm not that. And I'm recognizing who I am. Y'all lucky that I didn't get this when I was younger. Because we don't even recognize, if they're telling you and demonizing something, you should start questioning those things. There's a reason for this. There's a reason. How you know, Miss Ty? I'm closer now to sanity than I've ever been. And I stand on that. And I'm proud of that. Multiplicity has been demonized in our culture. They would have us think that a person like me is sick. They would diagnose it, a traditional therapist would diagnose it as multiple personality disorder. But because I know who I am, they can't give me that. Let me give it to you this way. You remember the story of Jesus casting out the demons from the possessed man? Let's get into it. We're going to get into it and we're going to unpack this thing like you ain't never heard it, because I know they ain't never gave it to you like this. You get it fresh and new over here. And I stand on that. Let me show you how it shows up in your life. Miss Ty, I don't know about that. You don't. Hey, it's not got you. Watch this. He talked directly to the demons, asking them their names. And the demon replied, Legion, for we are many. And then he freed the man from his suffering. If we only could stop for a minute and not take these things literally and look at it as an allegory as it was meant. From that standpoint, you know what's next. I know you see it coming. I know you feel it coming. Because my energy is massive. Look at this thing metaphysically. Look at it from a metaphysical standpoint. Get out that carnal mind and think. We can recognize that this allegory is a metaphor for facing hard parts of ourselves. The demons within you. And I say demon loosely because it's an allegory. Because that's what's showing up in your manifestations on the outside of you. Because if you are ugly on the outside, on the inside, you're going to show up ugly on the outside. And that's not just physical. I never knew the meaning and the depth that means. If you're ugly inside, you'll be ugly outside. Not even taking it that far to say, if I'm ugly on the inside, whatever I got going on the inside, not just physically, it's going to be ugly. In my manifestations, it's going to be ugly. I'm going to manifest some ugly things like poverty. I'm going to manifest some ugly things like a man that continuously cheat on me. I'm going to manifest some ugly things like my family, people stabbing me in my back. That's ugliness. Come on, Pooh. But instead of judging or ignoring those bad parts, the story shows how important it is to understand and transform. The healing starts with recognizing something. You got to recognize what it is. That's why he asked them, what is your name? I got to identify what this is. I got to name it. After I do that, I can show a little compassion for those inner struggles. That was the compassion. What was the compassion this time? He didn't destroy him because he very well could have. He casted them out. Y'all don't know what compassion is because y'all so quick to condemn somebody. I'm going to throw you in the trash because you did something to me. It was just the ugly part of them that did that. Let's figure out and let's work together how we can figure out how we can understand why this ugly part is even showing up. But it helps us to move forward without pretending they don't exist. Say it a different way, Miss Ty. I got you. That was a little bit confusing. I can understand that. Because we yet not understand. This story is not about casting out literal demons into a herd of pigs. When Jesus named those demons, when they named themselves Legion, he talked to them directly. It was a part of the process. And the process was recognizing what bad part was showing up in the space and sending the demons into the pig was a way of separating the man from his internal chaos. Y'all play too much. It was a way to reveal that his suffering didn't define him, that he could let it go. Whether it was trauma that was showing up, keeping him captive in his chains, whether it was bad experiences, That's what it was showing. That's what it was revealing to us. But we want to take things so literally and we don't get outside of ourselves and what we've been stuck in that hasn't been working for us for years. We can't get ourselves out of that to move past. And them pigs rushing into the sea and drowning was a dramatic way of showing the completeness, the complete removal of the torment that this man was going through. It's just a reminder. So we got to look at it metaphysically, not the physical. The pigs actually jumping in the water because, first of all, it allowed them an opportunity to escape and go somewhere else. Because you cannot kill or destroy energy. It can't be destroyed. When you're faced with that internal conflict, this is what it is if you look at it from a metaphysical standpoint. With this internal conflict, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Those things that you deal with when you lay down and close your eyes. Those things that you deal with that nobody knows that you're dealing with. Put your name on it. But it's a part of you. We have to recognize those parts of you are not there to hurt you. That part of you has been hurt somewhere along your journey. So you can let go of what's holding you back. You can let go of the trauma. You can let go of the distrust. Whatever yours is, you can let it go and move forward to freedom and wholeness. Bad parts and all. How do these sub-minds show up, Ty? I'm glad you asked. And I'm taking my time tonight, y'all. I know it's probably going to be 2 hours or more. These sub-minds are often activated. Shit. My darn thing that went out. Oh, well. But these sub-minds are activated in response to specific stimuli or emotional cues. So your emotional system, your body sends cues. Sorry, y'all, hold on. Why is it playing all these commercials? Let me give you an example of that. For instance, memories that are tied to those past experiences can stimulate your hippocampus, and it reignites feelings associated with the submind's purpose. And the submind's job is to handle loads of information quickly to help guide your instincts, your habits, and your emotions. It kicks in when you need fast reactions like spotting patterns, staying safe from threats, or taking care of everyday tasks without overthinking. Think of it as working behind the scenes to support your conscious mind, to keep everything in balance so that you can navigate your daily life. And those hormonal responses like cortisol triggers that protective submind to keep or to seek the mitigating perceived threats. And the oxytocin prompts the nurturing for your caregiver and your submind to show up. Dopamine. Y'all heard all of these terms before, so you're familiar. It's your motivation, it's your reward, and it can activate achievement oriented or pleasure seeking subminds. And that adrenaline that relates to the fight or flight response and primarily activates subminds designed for immediate action or survival. And then you're going to have the integration and the feedback loops. Once a submind is activated, its process is often reinforced through neural feedback loops. So it maintains its presence through stimulus or when another submind takes over. This thing is systemic. And having an understanding of these steps highlights the interplay between the psychological states of the brain, of its functions and hormones, illuminating the physical underpinnings of how your subminds work. This is science, family. So I ask myself about these bad parts of me that show up. Some of y'all have witnessed those parts. You've witnessed the part that say she too much. And I went to therapy on Tuesday. I started talking about these parts. I told you I was getting to know myself, and I meant that. And I even questioned myself if I would be okay sharing this part of me with y'all. Because people can be so judgmental. And I had concerns about that originally. I did. I understood that it could look bad the way it sounds. I started thinking about what y'all could say. But I needed this for me. I remember Room mentioning that we need to schedule time to be toxic. Instead of letting our toxic behaviors run rampant, schedule the time to do it. And I was hesitant about it because I didn't want to hurt nobody's feelings. And I was afraid and ashamed of what people would think of me. And I was able to witness. I was able to witness me. I forget who talks about the witness. Now I understand how you can witness yourself. It's because you got all these different parts of you, and you can actually, because you're subminds and you have all of these parts, you can witness this happening. My different parts started showing up one after another through that experience. And I was present. And a shift happened. Something magical happened. And I went from I don't want to feel ashamed and embarrassed to gratitude. Because she's not crazy. Most psychotherapists and spiritual practices subscribe to this mono-mind view. They reinforce the theory by suggesting that we should meditate and pray to correct them away. In the Hindu tradition, They call this the ego. And it's viewed as the work of the god Maya. She's considered the enemy. She's considered a temptress, kind of like the devil in Christianity. They keep us attached to the world of illusion. Because if you're a part of the illusion, you'll stay in the matrix. They're going to call you the walking dead because you have no awareness of what's really happening. But in Buddhist teaching, they call it the monkey mind. There's studies on it. Go and look it up. How our thoughts jump around in our consciousness like a irritated monkey. Thoughts are regarded as an agitator sneaking in through the side door. And in this thinking mind, it's a dirty, lower level, lower life form that has no value to us. And it causes you to be ashamed. So much so that we strive to get rid of it and enter into this imaginary spiritual war with it. Rather than us listening to those parts that need to be loved. Why isn't it? I don't know. Why is it that you don't talk to your thoughts and emotions? I have listened to them. I've been a witness and watched them. They are vulnerable parts of you that's carried around the pain and the trauma and the shame. Those parts are often hidden or suppressed to avoid emotional discomfort. We name one of my parts damsel. I have a Tamar. She works to maintain the order and control, often by suppressing damsel. I also got a Mike. Y'all get so angry when these people talk about they tap into their inner selves, and you have no idea what that means. You're just thinking, oh, she's possessed. No, ma'am. These are sub-minds. And if you get out of your carnal thinking, you can understand what it means. The biblical text talks about it all the time. There's multiple examples if you go and look it up. But Mike, he's the feisty one. When damsel becomes overwhelmed, Mike steps in. He alleviates distress from her. Oftentimes, he is the one that pops off. He's the one that get it cracking. No fear. So Tamar, the part of me that likes to maintain the order and control, she was tired. She was mentally and physically exhausted. And I know we talked about control freaking, but we also unpacked how there needs to be balance. So when I see my therapist on Tuesday, I explained to her I needed to be toxic. She was all in. Yes, let's do it. I'm excited about this. This is your space. This is your time. I'm here for you. But I said that there's a caveat to this thing. And this is how we were having this conversation. I told her there's a caveat to this. Because remember, I told y'all last time, not only am I going to I'm going to create my script. If you're in my movie, I'm creating yours too. So I said to her, that my therapy wasn't working for me. I meant it. And I needed to know how she contributed to my failure as my therapist. and I watched a different part of her show up, because she's never done mirroring with me, because she's never shared anything from her life. I don't know what part of her it was, but something else showed up, because she suddenly that brilliant idea that she was so on board with, let's do it. It's just your space. You can do whatever you want. It wasn't so brilliant anymore. And she found herself telling me, I found her telling me, if you need to find a new therapist, I'm okay with that. That ain't what I wrote in your script, young lady. You're deviating from the script. Your script says that you're going to go along with the program. So that's okay. But Mike showed up in this space. He said, wait a minute. I got to understand what showed up for you. How you just abandoned the space. Why were you so quick to abandon this space when you entered in with on your own? You gave me permission to have this space with you. So he asked her, what is it? When this didn't involve you, it was okay. But now you're changing your mind. And I could visibly see her scrambling 1,000,000 miles an hour. Because that wasn't new. This is when it's okay to look back, to grab what you need, because it led me back to something Ru had introduced me to a while back. I got on it, but I got off. And everything happens for a reason. And my reason was I wasn't ready for it then. But when you truly have a desire to heal, not saying that I didn't then, but I was working on something else. Something else had my attention. This has been a process. This journey has not been easy. There's a lot of work to be put in. You got to go places that you've never been before. Or if you've been there before, you got to go further than you went the last time. And after thinking about it, I got even more curious about me. But she recognized, and she had the awareness to circle back to it and say to me, listen, I didn't even recognize that I was abandoning you in this space. Oftentimes, y'all have no awareness what y'all doing in these spaces. Oftentimes, I had no awareness what I was doing in the spaces. And had no awareness what she was doing. I don't think overall until I called it to her attention. And after thinking about it, she circled back. And of course, we, kind of conversed and kept going. But what showed up for me in that is at an early age, the shame that I was carrying around, I learned that. That was learned behavior. And I understand that voice that tries to shame us, or that voice that tries to shame me, and get rid of the parts we find shame-worthy, those parts that give us nasty thoughts about ourselves or other people, or the parts of you that keep you addicted to those substances unknowingly. Those are the same parts of you that keeps you committing adultery unknowingly. Put your name on it, whatever it is. Welcome in, family. Whatever it is, it's called unburdening. It's a beautiful part of the process, because it lets you get back to the times before those parts were hurt, before they ever been tampered with. It's almost as if you're releasing a curse. You're casting your demon into swine. Now this right here is some work I can subscribe to. Let me put it in chat. How about we make this a trend? Let me put it in there. Let me make sure I'm. Hold on. We're gonna put that in the chat. Yes. It's just the act of relieving yourself or others from a heavy load, whether it be physical, emotional, or mental. It involves letting go of something that is weighing you down so that you can create space for clarity. It allows you to move forward without those chains. Y'all singing break every chain, but you ain't breaking nothing, sis. Brother, you're not breaking anything. You don't hear no chains falling. That ain't what you hear. We got to stop lying to ourselves. That's not what you're hearing. You will feel much lighter. Top of tonight, no bad parts. But let's go deeper. Miss Ty, you can go deeper than that? Absolutely. We're going deeper. I'm okay with that. Welcome in, family. We're going to go deeper. What does that look like? What happens when you go through these things on your journey? The things I've unpacked, I've expanded on so many topics, but I don't believe I've ever expanded on this. I don't think I've ever talked about what it looks like to have these multiple parts that show up as a result of what you've been through in your life. Let's talk about these inner parts, Ty. As we unpack these parts, don't feel ashamed to say it to me, to say it to yourself, because it's nothing to be ashamed of. I know that's what you were taught. There's no shame here. There's no shame, blame, or judgment. I tell you that when we come in the space where it starts with you. And I'm expanding that to understand that was the reason I came up with that. At the time, I didn't have an awareness how big and deep it went, but I am now. First, there's your manager. These are the parts. Welcome in, family. These are the parts that we're unpacking. These are the parts that help you keep your daily life on track. They love being in control and they work hard to prevent your wounded parts from being triggered so you can stay focused. Sometimes their strategies include things like panic attacks, depression, avoidance, or even obsessive compulsive behaviors. This thing is deep, but it's good. This is how it shows up in your life. But here are 4 common types of managerial parts. You have the controlling, critical part. It's constantly overthinking and it analyzes everything. It's always trying to stay in control to avoid those triggers. Then you have the procrastination, the withdrawing part. They avoid tasks because starting things feels uncomfortable for them. So they pull back. They pull back from relationships to avoid disappointments and failure. They don't follow through with assignments to avoid disappointments and failures. Then we have the perfectionist, the overachieving part. This part believes that everything has to be perfect. And that means that you can't be rejected if it's perfect. They push you to keep proving yourself without ever taking a break. It's on to the next. It's on to the next. After you finish that, you got to do something else. Then you have the caretaking, the people-pleasing part of you. These parts focus on others to escape their own emotions. They prioritize everyone else. They work on everybody else's needs because deep down they don't trust that theirs matter. So when you say, I'm just going to focus on my kids, that part, that's the part I'm talking about. Then there's the firefighter, the reactive protector. This part jumps in impulsively when your wounded parts are triggered. Its goal is to numb the pain. It shows up as a self-harm or self-addiction or any type of addiction, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, work, pornography, or anything else you use to escape. Now let's talk about these exiles. They are younger. They are the more vulnerable part of you that has experienced the trauma. They were isolated to protect your feelings. They were isolated to protect you from the shame and worthlessness and the fear. This part of you carries so much pain. And they just want to feel cared for, and they want to tell their story. They need to be welcomed back into your system with love. But until they heal, you might feel fragile and vulnerable. Meanwhile, your protected parts are working overtime to keep the pain locked away. And then finally, there is the self, the core of who you are. When you're connected to yourself, you feel grounded, you feel confident, and you feel secure. This is why Ma'at, knowledge of self, was so important. Because the self is meant to lead that system. There's a hierarchy in everything. But sometimes other parts get so loud that they take over. And the goal is to learn what each part needs to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel free, and feel love, so that balance can be restored to your system. The body keeps the score. This is a whole nother level. And this is the kind of deep work that Jesus faced during his 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. I bet you nobody won't tap into that. Those inner parts that you don't know are there can have you doing things to help control the rage that's on the inside of you. That part has a need to get outside of your body because you've been abused. It will trigger the need to do things to yourself, like cutting, like self-harm. I'm speaking from experience. I'm going to share a transparent moment with y'all. I always share. I don't know why I say that, but I'm going to share a transparent moment with y'all. I never realized that I was soothing a rageful part of myself unpacking this. I used to get so much enjoyment out of watching these pimple popping videos. And I never knew why. I could never understand. And all I knew that I would come to a place of calmness. It would calm me down. And when I was feeling anxious, I could watch it and it would give me this sense of calmness. And it would bring me peace, like a sense of peace. But when you start getting curious about yourself, you ask yourself, why do I need peace if I'm not raging? That's a beautiful question, Todd. Why do you need peace if you're not raging? And I got to answer. And a lot of you are raging and don't even know it. You are raging and don't know it. That's why you need peace. Miss Ty, what else can it look like? I got you. You're not going to get this anywhere else. Cutting, scratching your skin. They call it body dysmorphia. Excessive or compulsive eating. And you don't know why you're doing it. Just makes you feel better. It's that comfort food, and you call yourself a foodie. Let me ask you. This is why why do you need to feel better? What did you need comfort from? I've been there too. I was all into that was the excuse I gave. I'm a foodie. I just love food. Never thought about I could be doing it to comfort somewhere that I didn't feel comforted. You got people that pull their hair out. You got people that use substances or engage in other risky behaviors. Individuals may intentionally overdose on drugs or alcohol. Now, I'm not talking about suicide, but I'm talking about harm themselves to dull the pain. Meaning, if you're drinking to get drunk and intoxicated, you're getting DWIs. You're just trying to stay high to numb the pain. They have reckless actions, like partaking in these extreme and hazardous activities. They serve as a subconscious effort to punish yourself or test your value. I know you're thinking to yourself, I'm just trying to race my car, Miss Ty. I just love racing. I love the speed. It gives me that adrenaline. It gives me that something it gives me when I win. No, sir, that's not all. I know that's what you've been told, but that's not it. Ladies, those unsafe sexual practices may stem from a belief that you don't deserve care or respect. It perpetuates the cycle of harm. I know we don't see it that way, but I know. I have life experience that if my protector hadn't showed up in that space and I didn't have something to give me a fix for it, I don't know where I would be. Oh, we want to cast out that lustful demon, where those behaviors, even though they're destructive, those parts of you are crying out for help. But yet we're going to the altar and trying to cast them out. First of all, you don't even know the demon's name. They don't even know the demon's name. How you want to cast it out if you don't even know the name and why it's there? Houseway. Yet you going up there trying to cast it out. I'm curious to know how that would make a part of me feel. If it, let's say it's possible. We got these parts, right? I wonder how that feels to be casted out. Let's put a pin and then we'll come back to that later. But knowing that these parts are trying to protect you, let me share the steps with you. Because only if we live by it, we can eat. Not just eat, we can eat down. That's what y'all say. We can eat down. I'm going to figure this shit out. Let's walk this thing down on a physical level, what it looks like in your life. Okay. First, we're going to recognize the need. According to the biblical allegory, Jesus noticed the struggle, whether it was spiritual, emotional, or physical. He noticed it. It don't specifically say. But he acknowledged the pain. He recognized the need. He showed compassion. He approached with empathy. He didn't judge. I'm going to approach anyway. Then he established authority. He made it clear that he knew who he was. I know who I am. So you have no power here. In other words, you have no other choice but to listen to what I got to say. When you're the author of your own movie, when you're the producer in your own life, when you're your own creator, whatever happens in your life has no other choice but to listen to you. And I have to say him. I know what that's like to experience someone with confidence. And I know what that's like because I've been confident in a lot of areas in my life. And I'm even getting more confident as time goes on. But then he commanded the spirits. He didn't beat around the bush. It was chaotic inside. Jesus spoke directly and firmly to get control over these raging spirits. And lastly, there was a restoration of peace. So there was oneness and peace so that he could heal. Those parts of you that are frozen in your past. And y'all use that allegory for everything but what it should be used for. Whatever those abusive scenes are, it is mandatory that we go further, that we go deeper, because these parts of you reflect inner parts of you. They are attempting to manage the emotional pain or protect themselves from deeper wounds. And these actions are seen as coping mechanisms. You're doing what you're doing to cope with that inner torment that's going on in your life. You're drinking. You're smoking. You're eating. You're cheating. And it's your opportunity to be compassionate to yourself. It's your opportunity to explore. No matter how destructive those are, counterproductive or difficult you think it is, sis. That's the duality of this thing. This is what they didn't want you to know. Because if you knew this, you'll start to recognize who you are. If you knew this, you might understand who you are. You have yet to scratch the surface on this thing. Jesus had a conversation with himself. But they put the devil there to make you believe. Mono mind, remember? There was something on the outside of you. So you wouldn't understand how it works. Now that, Miss Todd, makes sense. That makes perfect sense. If I'm in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, of course, a part of me is going to say I'm hungry. Him going into the wilderness was a way to deal with his subminds. It was a way of dealing with himself. He was learning his parts. He had to do this because he was going to be tempted on this journey that was now ahead of him. This is why it's so important to have knowledge of yourself, because you're going to be tempted on your journey. So now it's time for self-reflection. Jesus' time in the wilderness was all about testing his faith and his character, which ended up making him stronger and more focused on his mission. It's a great reminder that working through challenges can lead to real growth and a stronger sense of self. So those behaviors like procrastination and self-criticism might not just be random or negative habits. They could stem from a deeper attempt to shield or protect an exiled part from your psyche. And part of you that's been hurt or rejected. These protective mechanisms, that underlying intent is to prevent further harm. But Ms. Ty, I got a question. How does a pig jumping from a cliff help me understand this? I can understand why you got that question, because we're still thinking physically. That perspective allows us to uncover underlying motives like fear and past experiences that drive actions. Through this process, we can begin to untangle these complexities and work towards healing. We can replace that confusion. We can replace that blame. We can, with compassion and growth, the way it's intended, the way it was intended. You have the ultimate example. But when you don't live by it, you can't eat. You won't eat. What does that look like on a metaphysical level? I was waiting. Bitch, I was waiting for you to ask me that question. I was waiting. I get so excited when I talk about the metaphysical, because things make so much sense and I can understand it. On a metaphysical level, recognizing the need aligns with awareness. By turning into those energetic fields and vibration of others, he tuned in. Oh, what's her name? I can't think of her name. She always saying you got to be tuned in and tapped in. You got to be in the vortex. I can't think of her name. But Jesus was able to recognize this man was going through something, because he came into his biofield, that area. Go back down the timeline. He was able to recognize, he was able to feel him. Come on. He recognized that he had some disruptions within. And he could acknowledge the pain that was caused by the energetic disturbances that was showing up. Now, I'm not sure, again, whether it was emotional, spiritual, physical, but I may say that it could have been all of them. Because it said, for we are many. So it could have been all of them. But then he showed up with compassion. If you're not aware, let me tell you, compassion is high frequency. It's high vibrational. So he showed up vibrating high. These are jewels for your bucket right now. So he extended this powerful vibration. You ever had somebody walk in the room and their energy was just so contagious that it just made you feel good? That part. That's how he went on the scene. So that he could create this environment where healing could take place. There's healing, high vibrational. Take a look at it and see what you got to do to start healing cancer. What you got to do to be on the frequency to heal high blood pressure. It's frequencies to this thing. That place you go for healing ain't high vibrational enough. How you know, Miss Ty? Because this act of unconditional love initiated a shift in the energy. Y'all be talking about it's a shift. I can feel a shift in the atmosphere. That ain't nothing but that music. We're drawn as Africans. We're connected to music. Music can move us. But that act of unconditional love, him showing up, even though he had all this stuff going on, internally I felt it. That's how I know y'all not vibrating high. I can know the unseen things from the things that I see. How can you know? When you're trying to cast out a part of you, when you're telling me a part of me is not welcome there, that's not unconditional. Those are conditions. When you're telling me that because you see me in a certain light, you ain't gonna deal with me no more, those are conditions. When you're telling me because I got pregnant, I can't come to church, y'all can't hold no baby shower for me, those are conditions, and there ain't no high vibration in that. Establishing authority is holding a strong, unwavering intention and aligning that with the ultimate source of energy. Jesus demonstrated mastery, according to the biblical text, over his energetic fields. How did he do that, Ty? By asserting his connection to the divine power. He disallowed any lower level or negative energies to remain. Listen, he walked into a space where it was all low vibrational. And he did not allow anything to shift. He says, I will not be moved, just like a tree planted in the water. That's how he showed up. When you're vibrating like that, you have the ability to speak to the mountain and it will move. You have the ability to make commands, but it will require. There's going to be some prerequisites. There are some requirements, intentional use of spoken words. Words are spells. Words have the power of life and death. It's in your tongue. Come on, manifest. Come on, manifestation process. That's the creation process. It connects over here. His direct command carried a powerful, focused intention. And it created a ripple effect in the energy field that forced that negative energy to dissipate. Not only that, it was transformed. So there could be peace in the midst of that storm. In the midst of his torment, he suddenly had peace. Once negative energies are removed, he ensured, he means Jesus, according to the biblical allegory. I'm speaking on the individual's energy field that's filled with chaos, restored to balance and cohesion. It facilitated wholeness and healing on all levels, spiritual, emotional, and physical. You want to know how I know it works like that? I got the experiences to prove it. But according to Luke, after those demons was casted out, the local people said he was transformed. Let me not stop there because I recognize you don't get the background of stuff. They give you the one-liners, but don't expand on how they got there. And I personally have never heard, and I'm speaking from my personal experience, I have never heard anyone talk about what was going on with him beforehand. If you have, great, perfect. Put it in the chat so I can see it. Tag me in it so I can see it. I have never heard. So I don't want to assume that y'all are aware. So I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you a little background on it. So, according to the biblical text, before the man was transformed, he lived among the tombs. And the people of the community, they were fearful of him. He was bound with chains and shackles. Let's think about that. Somebody had to put him in some chains. We unpacked chains before, what they're capable of. Go back down that timeline. But oftentimes he would break free. So imagine a man roaming around with many demons, legion, for we are many, just roaming around the streets. That's what the text say. It don't say the streets, it's just say roaming. It don't say roaming around. I'm using my word, but it said that he was around and about. I know what it's like because I see it every day. Many demons. Many demons. Y'all be acting fool in these streets. But that's a story for another time. That's why it's so important that you get the backstory of things. So a fresh start was necessary amidst his chaos. That step represents creation of a new energetic blueprint. Jesus guided the alignment of thoughts, feelings, and actions with higher vibrations. That must have been empowering for him to maintain balance when for the longest all he knew was chaos. And I'm talking about the man that was nameless, that the demons were in. And I'm not sure how long he had that condition. I'm not sure about that because it don't really say. But it had to be a while because the people repeated that, like they repeatedly had to restrain him. So it must have been some time. So I can only imagine. Earlier I said I was curious to know how that makes the parts of you feel if those parts have been pushed down and suppressed. It feels like being bound and chained and shackled. Oftentimes breaking free, getting loose in the community, them being fearful of you. I've seen how scared y'all be in the church when they call themselves casting out demons. I've seen the uncontrollable behavior will make them try to subdue you in their own way. But this condition can't be solved that way. And it's causing despair and it's causing hopelessness among those who witness that torment. When we're ignoring or suppressing parts for too long, it shows up in different areas of your life. You might notice you're feeling anxious. You may notice some depression or even random bursts of anger. It will. I'm not going to say if, but when, because it's only a matter of time before it takes a toll on relationships and it's going to lead to some sort of conflict, causing you to pull away from others. But on a deeper level, rejecting these parts of yourself can hold you back from tapping into your full potential, from your self-awareness and your creativity. But here's the good news. When you acknowledge and integrate these parts, It can lead to some amazing changes. You can find your inner peace. Better, you can have emotional clarity. That's high vibrational. It's a way for you to move through life feeling full, whole, and complete. You cannot be whole, partial. And at the end, you can say, job well done. You don't need nobody else to tell you that. When you know you've done a good job, you don't need to hear from nobody else. When God giving you confidence and you vibrating high. How does it show up in your body? With the right help, severe struggles can show up and take a toll on your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Mentally, if you don't treat it, you're going to have anxiety. You're going to have depression. It can show up like depression. You can have episodes of psychosis, leaving you feeling more isolated and hopeless over time. Physically, the ongoing stress can weaken your immune system. Some of us right now are sick because we got a weak immune system because we're dealing with this physical and emotional, mental turmoil that we're going through because we're trying to suppress these parts. It's going to mess with your sleep. It's going to leave you feeling drained, or worse, that's leading to harmful behaviors. So that hypertension and the high blood pressure you got, so that heart disease or that stroke or that cancer that's showing up, you having issues with your digestive system, that stress can disrupt hormones that causes fatigue, and you got issues with your weight. Your weight is up and down. You can't seem to lose weight. You just want to eat. You feel emotionally abandoned, and it's easy to feel abandoned. It's easy to feel helpless. It's easy to feel ashamed. And it makes it worse. It's been almost 2 hours. I'm going to get out of here. I never thought I could feel compassion for people that were murderers and rapists and people that did horrible things. Until now, I never thought I could have compassion for that. But I have compassion for them now because I know what it's like to have these different parts of you show up and you don't know where it came from. Whether it was through your own personal trauma, whether it was through your own personal experience, or you inherited through the transfer of your legacy burdens. Take that off there. Your parts are not what they have been taught to you they were. They are not. How you relate in your inner world will be how you relate in your outer world. If you can appreciate and have compassion for your parts, even the ones you consider to be enemies, you can do the same for other people who resemble them. On the other hand, if you hate or you have disdain for your parts, you will do the same for somebody else that reminds you of that. So if you can't deal with somebody that's a murderer, that's because you're possibly capable of it yourself. You're capable of those things too. That's why the disdain or hatred is there. So when you say, I don't know what it is about them, I just don't like them. It's something in you that recognizes that in them because it's in you. Even the most destructive part of you have protective tendencies. They have those protective intentions, but they are carrying this cross. And these crosses that they're carrying around are products of your experiences. Take an alcoholic, for example. It's common to believe that the alcoholic has an irresistible urge to drink. Now, you can put your name on whatever yours is, whether you have an irresistible urge to take pills or to sleep around, whatever it is. Let's not mistake the burden for the part that it carries. Say that again this time. Let's not mistake your burdens for the part that carries it. Look at it this way. Is it possible that that part of you that craves that alcohol or being promiscuous or taking them drugs is trying to protect you and carry that burden of keeping you from severe emotional pain or even suicide? What if that burden that they're carrying protected you and shielded you from going out in them streets and being hurt? If you recognize that, would you treat that person differently if you were able to recognize that whatever it is showed up in somebody else? Would you treat them different? If that's the case, you could instead help them to get to know that part of that honors it. For it's attempting to keep them going. And it gives it permission to heal. If you tap into it instead of rebuking it, instead of trying to cast it out and get to know that side of yourself, the ugly parts of you, the bad parts of you, and change what it protects, then you could help unburden that fear and responsibility. Unburdening your spiritual tradition is going to encourage you to have compassion for everybody. But y'all don't do that. You shame it. You shame them. You cast them out. You exile them. You lock them up and put them in jail with no rehabilitation. What type of rehabilitation are we going to do on ourselves? On yourself? You wouldn't give up on you like some of y'all would. Some of y'all would. Let me not even say that. Some of y'all would give up on you. The goal is not to cast it out. The goal here is to form better relationship with these parts so that you can heal. My goal is the development of this relationship that is conducive for my healing. The subminds. I don't want to have a mono-mind thinking process because there's only one way. When I know there can't be one without the other. There cannot be good without evil. And the mono mind doesn't allow you the space to think of there's something on the opposite side. That's just like saying there's no hot and cold. There's no up or down. That's the work that I'm doing. I myself am excited about the possibilities of what's showing up for me in this work. And it's hard work, but I'm seeing that it's worth it. Just think about, is it possible that I can think of these things? Think. Come on. Starting to think. Because we have not been thinking because they tried to take that away from us. But now that I recognize who I am, you can't take nothing from me. That's it for me. I'm going to get out of here, family. I've been on here over 2 hours. Have a happy Today's Monday. I want you to go out and start manifesting. Start thinking. Start being creative. Start being intentional. Start being cautious of what you say and how you move and what you do. We're going to stop allowing people to criticize. Those inner parts of us that are just there to keep us afloat. Because without them, I don't know where I would be. I would have given up a long time ago if it wasn't for these parts showing up saying, you know what? You can't give up. You know what? Regardless of how it looks, you can't stop. And that's me. Happy Sunday, y'all. Have a good night.